Welcome to the World United. Welcome to the World United.
So hi everyone, Pranam, and welcome to Meet the Master series. I am Mansi, and this is a prelude to the World Parliament of Spirituality, the WPS, the third edition. And this World Parliament of Spirituality is going to be held in all the 6 continents. And in Northern America, it is going to be held in the last week of November. And I look forward to seeing all of you there. So today in Meet the Master series, we will be meeting Mr. Alan K. Collins. And he is a master quantum think coach and a strategic quantum think consultant. And he has done consultation for professional and for personal reasons. And he also works with mastery performance. Along with his wife, Deanne Collins, who is the creator of Quantum Think, he coaches executives in leading corporations, government agencies, as well as entrepreneurs around the world. And they use their advanced thinking technology, Quantum Think, and they also work through their online audio program, Quantum Think Experience. So welcome, Alan.
Hi, welcome. Thank you.
So my first question is, I want to go into your childhood. What was your childhood like? And were there any experiences there or incidents there that brought you into that field, in this field?
My childhood was in England. I grew up in London, England. And I don't think there were any incidents. I had a very normal, growing up. I don't have any brothers and sisters, so I had a lot of friends. And I went to, I would say I was a normal. I don't recall anything that was particularly upsetting or catastrophic or anything. Actually, I was a normal kid growing up with my friends and doing things that young kids did in those times, running around, playing in the park, and enjoyed my family. I loved my parents. They loved me. My family was very close. We had a very close family, not necessarily logistically, but close in terms of, how we were with each other. And I left England and came to the United States when I was in my mid-20s. And I grew up, actually, my first career was in the beauty business.
Wow.
I owned, right. I owned salons, hair salons. That's how come I noticed your hair, Mansi.
You know what? This is so amazing, and also I noticed that how you had an intuitive sense about optics, and usually I'm very keen about optics, but I try not to put the masters in a spot and make them do things. But I am so heartened that you actually saw that, and you were like, no, I want to change the optics of my background. And so thank you. I can see that, so you might have left that business, but it's still a part of you and it has integrated itself in your.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that was there before I got started. So I was in the beauty business. I owned salons in London, in New York, and in Miami. And that was really, I did that probably up until, I don't know, maybe for about 20 years, 20, 25 years, something like that. I was in that business. But as we're talking about it, it's very interesting because one of the gifts that I noticed I had as a hairdresser was that, and I mostly worked with women. It was occasional guys, but mostly women. What I noticed very early on was that I was able to recreate what somebody wanted, whether they actually brought me in a photograph of a celebrity or friend or from a magazine, or whether they explained it to me, or whether they were actually quiet and said nothing at all, or whether I asked them things like, you know, where are you going, what are you doing, whether they wanted their hairstyle for a date or to meet a date or for a job interview or a party, a wedding or whatever. I was able to recreate exactly what they wanted that would get them what they wanted in that hairstyle. And that was very natural for me to be able to do that. And the interesting thing is that's actually what I do now, except that I don't do it hairdressing. And this is actually one of the distinctions of quantum think. Quantum think is made up of 21 what we call distinctions in thinking, and one of them is the hollow movement of purpose. And it's about how the hollow. It's one of the distinctions out of the 21 is called the hollow movement of purpose. Okay. Hollow movement was a term coined by David Bohm, the quantum scientist, who died, I believe, last year or the year before, as he was referring to the hollow movement of the universe and how things would go in and out of visibility. They wouldn't go in and out of existence, but they would go in and out of visibility. So sometimes you might be able to see your purpose, and sometimes you may not be able to see it, but it was always there. Purpose is something that is always there. We're always living our purpose. But sometimes it's very visible to us and we're in the experience of it. Mm-hmm. And other times we may be, not, maybe confused, distraught, stuff going on in our lives and not thinking about it, but it's still always there. So I realized this as I got into quantum think, when I looked back at what I did when I was in the hairdressing business and what I did as a hairdresser, that gift of recreation, what people's intent was. Mm-hmm. And that is actually how I do my work now. I'm able to discern exactly what somebody's intent is. And in my work with them, I'm able to recreate it for them in such a way that they see it for themselves and are able to act on it and get the benefit of it. So that's sort of one little sort of pattern, if you like, that I've noticed has been there since I was a child and how it plays out today as part of my purpose.
Alan, that is just really so amazing because you always had the seed, and maybe that seed has just completely grown and branched into new dimensions, but you always had the seed. And I mean, I'm sure women all over the world who will watch this is going to be like, I wish I had a hairdresser, because the relationship you have with your hairdresser is really an intimate one. For women, at least, the hair is the ego. And if your hairdresser is going to move away or something, it's like a crisis because this is a very intimate connection.
It is. And another thing also about hairdressing, as you obviously know, because you place a great importance on it, is that one of the things I heard when I started my career as a hairdresser is that hairdressers had a bad reputation for not listening. That they didn't listen to the client. So the client would then get upset. They didn't get what they wanted. It was too short. It was too long. It was too black. It was too brown, whatever it was, that they felt like their hairdressers didn't listen. Now, I caught on to that very early on and made a really focused intent on listening to clients and and that was what enabled me to hear, not only hear it verbally, like what people wanted, but also intuitively. Intuitively, because sometimes people never spoke to me. So I had to use my intuition. I didn't have anything else. So, I developed a very strong intuition and a very, very strong ability to listen to people, to what it was they really wanted that they weren't necessarily saying. And that, as you know, is that's a gift and a talent that I've developed. And I think, part of what we mean by what we've seen in the hollow movement of purpose, if you can distinguish what your purpose is, then you can use it consciously. If because we all have a purpose, but if you're not related to it, you can't benefit from it at will, when you choose. You'd have to just benefit from it when it visited you, but you would not be in command. And so when you can distinguish what your purpose is, then you're in command, and you can utilize it very consciously in any and all circumstances.
Wow, this is so amazing, Mr. Allen. So, because if I may say so, I think most of us don't know what we want.
Exactly.
Right? We have some idea of what we want, or we are very confused with a lot of options. And I think from what you're saying is, you have this uncanny ability to zone in on what they really want, and literally, to borrow the hairdresser metaphor, you're showing them the mirror, right? Which they can't.
Right. Yes. Not only a mirror, but a very clean mirror.
Yes.
So the reflection is perfect. Yeah, and you're absolutely correct, actually. If you ask somebody, I've done this obviously in my work, I ask people what they want, and they pretty much will start off by telling you what they don't want.
Wow.
They're not comfortable even telling you what they want, because it's not clear for them. It's not in the forefront of their mind. And it does take some thinking, as good as I am with it. Like a little story that I had. I recall a time, this was a few years back, where Diane, my wife, she wanted a specific kind of paper.
Mm-hmm.
And I called up Office Depot, which was about a mile away from where our offices were. And I asked them if they had that paper. And they said that they did. So I drove over there. And when I got there, they didn't. And so I was a little upset, but, it was okay. No big deal. These things happen. I spoke to the manager. The manager was very kind, apologized. And he called up another Office Depot, which was another mile away. And he asked them to go and check it. And he did everything properly to make sure that they, in fact, did have this paper. So I drive over there. I walk in. And I told them, the manager had called, and here I am to pick up that paper. They didn't have that paper. Now I was upset. And they were wearing little buttons on there saying 100% customer satisfaction guaranteed. So I spoke to the manager and I said, you're wearing a button, you're saying, customer satisfaction guaranteed. I want that paper, and I want it today delivered to my office. I've been to 2 Office Depots. Both of them said you had it and you didn't have it. So that's what I want. And as I left, I noticed the corporate phone number on the wall. I took a note of it, got in my car, and I'm driving back to my office, and I'm about to call, and I thought to myself, what do I really want? Mm. And I started to think. Now, of course, the first thing that I wanted was the paper. But then I kept asking myself the question, what do I really want? So the superficial answer was the paper. But when I went deeper with myself into what is it I really wanted, what I discovered was that I wanted Office Depot to be successful, because they were a very convenient store. I used them for a lot of things. And if anything happened and they went out of business, that would be a bigger problem than whether I got the paper or not. So when I got that, it was like an aha moment. That's what I really want. Then I made the phone call. And I called up, and a young lady answered in customer service. And I explained to her the entire story, including my questioning of what is it I really wanted.
Wow.
Okay, this is the conversation I had with her. And she said, give me 15 minutes. I'll call you right back in 15 minutes. I said, okay. And she did call back in 15 minutes. And this was This was what we call a quantum occurrence, what I'm about to tell you. She says to me, you're not going to believe this. We have a delivery truck in your area and it has the paper on board. Where can I deliver it? And so I gave her my address. I got the paper, and that was a quantum moment. And that's how quantum results occur. It's when people get clear about what they really want, not what they think they want, but not at the surface level, but when you go deep into yourself and know when you get really have this clarity about what you really want, the universe delivers. Whether it's on a truck or not.
I just got goosebumps all over. I literally just got goosebumps all over. And there are so many things that strike me about what you said. First of all, you're an amazing storyteller. I literally felt I was there with you going through all these things. And what struck me is, yes, you were upset, but you thought about the bigger picture. You thought about Home Depot. And you were not a I mean, yes, you felt that, you felt that emotion, but you're not a reactor. I think this is what distinguishes you from most of us, because instead of just reacting and letting it be there, you just expanded it. And this is just amazing.
And I think it comes from, really knowing what you really want, because I don't think people really ask themselves that question at a deeper level. We ask the question at a superficial level, like it's what do we want in that moment. We're all wound into immediate gratification, instant results, no real thinking going on, but really just reacting to our five senses, to the instant gratification of our five senses that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, which are great. Those five senses are very important, but they're important at a survival level. They are not important. They're not as important when you start to go into the deeper sense of things and what is it that humanity really wants? What do humans really want? How do they really want to live their lives? What do they want for their families? What do they want for themselves? What do they want for their communities, their businesses, and so forth and so on? So I think it's important to get into that deeper question. And I always tell my clients, or anybody that I happen to be in this type of conversation with, to ask the question at least 3 times. Do not settle for the first answer. Wow. Sit with it, go and ask yourself again. And then when you get an answer, go again. And allow yourself to go deeper and deeper. And this may be in conflict to some other kinds of teachers who might say to you, well, the first thing that comes to your mind is the right thing. Well, maybe in other sets of circumstances that's correct, but asking people what they want, it isn't correct. You need to stay with the question. The question will lead you into on a very interesting journey.
Wow, Alan.
So
there is something that I got from your intro, which I think your story actually illustrates very beautifully. You say that the results are with all people included and solutions that work with everyone, that work for everyone. And in this whole story that you shared, this real life incident that you shared, all people were included. You even helped Home Depot meet its promise.
Right.
It's good for Home Depot as well. So
it was Office Depot.
Sorry.
That's okay. Yes, exactly. That's very good, very astute, Marcy, very astute, because in Quantum Think, one of the things that we teach people is to look from the whole. Mm-hmm. And in fact, actually, right now, as we're speaking, I'm in the middle of doing a Quantum Think program in one of a very big corporation here in the United States, And we're delivering a distinction every week. We deliver a distinction over 12 weeks, okay? And the very distinction that we're in right now, this week, with this group, is that we're in the distinction transformation as distinct from change. And each of our distinctions has a recreation associated with it for the mind and awareness. And the recreation this week is, how can we have this work for everyone? Mm-hmm. It's being in the question when you're in a meeting or with your family, and everybody wants, this one wants to do that one wants to do this, and there's all kind of conflict going on, and nobody's in agreement or alignment. You just stay in the question, how can we have this work for everyone? And that's part of me as well, which sort of played out to what you just said about, like, how can it work for me? How does it work for Office Depot, for the corporate version, for the local version, and for a sense of satisfaction to the people working in Office Depot who could actually deliver something that somebody was looking for.
100% satisfaction to 100% of the people.
Exactly.
That is the goal.
That's my motto.
The
That's exactly right. Then that really is an indication of looking from the whole. If you're looking from the whole, it includes all the people that are in the whole in that particular situation. So yeah.
I have like the more you answer, the more I get satisfied. But then there are new questions sprouting, so I'm wondering which direction to go. You mentioned that this week you were working on, with your clients, you were working on what is the difference between transformation and change?
Transformation as distinct from change.
From change, yes.
So in other words, transformation is not change. and so what we mean by that is, when you try to change something, you have to keep the thing that you want to change visible. So it can indicate how well you're doing changing it, right? Okay. You want to know, well, I've changed, I'm better than I was, or I need to still do some more over here, over there. And so you never really get accomplished what you really want if you're focused on change. In fact, there's a statement that says, what you put your attention on expands. You're adding mass to it, right? And so if you've got your attention on what you don't want, because you obviously want to change it, otherwise if you wanted it, you wouldn't want to change it. So if you've got your attention on what you don't want, you're going to expand it. And it's going to become more, and it's going to be following you around forever. And you never get away from it. You may have a slightly better day. You adapt to it. You're not as bad as you used to be. You've improved some, but it's still there. Transformation is a whole different situation. Transformation means you're transcending the current form. So that means that you're not messing around with the form, like what it is, the actual thing. You're not there at all. You're actually in a completely different conversation. Being in the right question, we would say, being in the right question will lead you to the right answer. And so you've got to know what the right question is. So that's why we said, how can we have this work for everyone? Is a more useful question than, we've got a problem, how are we going to fix it? And how long is it going to take? And who's going to do it? Right?
It's a very deep question. It's really a very deep question. How are we going to fix it versus how are we going to
have this work for everyone?
Wow.
Right. And it's very subtle, because we're not saying, how are we going to make this work for everyone? Which requires effort and work in the, how are we going to make this work? So there's work there, right? So in the way that we say it and the way we relate to it is, how can we have this work? Which is interesting, because just staying in that intent naturally starts to reshape the conversations. People pick up on the energy of it and they start thinking about each other differently. And it starts to work for everyone. And that's how quantum think works. Quantum think works through the intent that you're functioning from, not what you do. Because in quantum think, we make the overarching distinction of quantum think is what we call old world view, new world view. Old world view points to that the earlier science, the Newtonian science, the laws and principles of that science have found their way into society. They shape what we do. They shape all the inventions of the time, and they shape how we think and how we speak, what we think is possible, what we think isn't. And this old world view, this Newtonian world view is essentially going away. And the quantum world view is coming into existence. So we could say that in the old world view, the Newtonian world view, the fundamental principle of that is that reality is circumstantial. Circumstance rules. If you can fix the circumstance, change the circumstance, get the circumstance lined up perfectly to what your picture of it should be, then everything is going to turn out great, which it doesn't. But we still function from that. In the quantum world view, because it's energy and it's always moving, never static. The old world view, the Newtonian world view, deals with things that are physical and static. That's why it gave us the industrial age. So we can move these fixed, static objects, right? New world, energy in flux. It's moving all the time. So we say, one of the sort of overarching statements here is in the old world view, circumstance rules. New world view, intent rules. Because intent influences how we think. It influences other people all the time. They pick up on your energy. They're relating more to your energy than actually what you're saying. And this is really important because, even in the business world, what I hear is when somebody produces a really great result, and you probably experienced this yourself, when somebody does something really great and produces an outstanding result, the first thing you hear from their colleagues or their boss or whoever they're working with there is, what did you do? They don't say to them, how are you thinking?
Absolutely. You have zeroed in on that.
Right. And so that's what we're trained in. This is the old world view has trained us to look at actions as the source of the result. And it is not the source of the result. It is a component of the result, but it's not the source. The source is what you're thinking. Everything that was ever created by human beings on this planet since the beginning of time began with a thought. There are no random thoughts. Everything is connected. And so thought is what got everything going in the first place. And then from the thoughts, people created plans and they got people involved with them and they got more committed to it and they put all the pieces in place and they took all the appropriate actions, which did in fact lead to the result. But it didn't start with the actions. It began with a thought. And that's why we focus on thoughts. We focus on how people are thinking. We don't focus on their actions because we know that their actions are going to be in a perfect correlation to their thinking, like the mirror.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alan. Whatever you said, I feel that I see the resonance of your words in so many incidences. like, there are a lot of people who want to be rich or they want to do certain things, and they will go and pick up a book by that author, by someone. For example, if they want to be a millionaire or a billionaire,
Right.
they're going to find a book written by a billionaire and his life. And then they're like, okay, you know what? He went to this college, he did this. And, as if it's like all the steps, like if I have the steps of this chemical reaction, I can just produce it in my own life. So my past is in chemistry, so I'm bringing the chemistry analogy, but they literally seem to think, and you have articulated it much better than me, that they feel that if I go through all these steps, this is the product I'm going to have, but they almost forget that they're not the same reactant.
That's right. That's right. And that's very important that you bring that up, because when it's a concept. If you read a book, it's just a concept of somebody's experience. The person in the experience, they were thinking about this. It was inside of them. They were in what we call participatory knowing. They were participating consciously with the outcome. They were in the experience of that they knew how to do it and that they could do it. And they did do it, and they were successful of it. But when they repeated it in the form of a book or an article, it now becomes a concept. And people read that as if that was the source. Right. That's not the source. The source was that person. If the source actually, this is why we say in quantum thing, as another distinction is we call the art of distinguishing, a new world view of learning. If you can distinguish what you do, like I did with my ability to recreate what people wanted, because I was in that experience, I was able to recreate that experience in what I do today, which is very different than hairdressing. Very different. I mean, different in that hairdressing is working on people's beauty on the outside. What I do now as a quantum think coach and consultant is work on the beauty on the inside.
Way of putting that.
Right? But it's still that but I'm able to recreate it because I'm not recreating my actions. I'm recreating the original thought. And that's the difference. And, like, what is it I really want? I'm in that question. I know how powerful that question is. So the longer I stay in that thought of, what do I really want, the clearer I'm going to get on what I really want. Not what I think I want, what I really want. And this is actually how it works. So if somebody can distinguish, if somebody reads the book, written by the billionaire or the millionaire, and that person is able to distinguish what actually was going on for that person, there is a good chance they could recreate it and become very successful themselves.
Wow. So, I am, so from what you're saying, I'm really getting the distinction that you have to be in that energy field. You have to be present to the source of things to actually create something that benefits everyone, rather than just the actions, just the concept, which is no longer that alive, I would say. I mean, just to use, it's not that alive, like, that is fixed. It's already set, concrete. And I think what you're saying is step into an energy field, which is ever evolving, which is in flux, which has, I would say, probabilities, right?
Yes,
rather than.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it is. And the other thing, though, there's another aspect. You see, intent is always working. It is never not working. It works 24/7 through your entire life. It never ends. However, there's something that we might call a default intent. And this is really, really important, particularly in the work that we do, because we can't see ourselves as well as we can see others, right? I mean, I think we all know that. But we can have a default intent. Like if you hear somebody say, I want to do this, but I don't think I've got the right education, or I don't quite have enough time, but this is what I want. I'm going to try to make time. People they say what they want, and then there's a slight justification in there or reason or excuse about why they can't do it at all, or why they can't do it today, or why they need something else in order to be able to do it. Soon as that comes in, that kind of thinking, they're bringing a default intent. It's like they've got their foot on the accelerator and the brake at the same time. And so things are not working so well. So you've got to be, and this is why quantum thinking is so important, because it actually distinguishes all of this, the whole thing. And so that you can begin to see, you become consciously aware of your limiting thoughts. They're not personal. This goes into another thing here. They're not personal thoughts. You may be having the thought, but you didn't create the thought. Nobody in their right mind is going to create a limiting thought about themselves, their family, their friends, the people that they love and care about in their life. They're not going to do it. So how come we do it? We do it because we're not aware of what we're doing. And so quantum think, when people engage with quantum think, they go to a whole nother level of conscious awareness. Not awareness. Awareness is great, but it's not enough. One has to be aware of what one is aware of. We call that conscious awareness. You're consciously aware of what you're aware of. Because when you're consciously aware of what you're aware of, you can create something else. If you're not consciously aware of what you're aware of, you actually can't. It's just going to take you on its merry way.
Wow. You know, so in education, we have this concept of metacognition, which is cognition about your cognition, like, you know. So, but this is in a more aware, conscious field.
Well, this is, this is, well, cognitive would happen in the brain.
Yes.
Right? But what I'm talking about is happening in the mind. Now, the mind and the brain, people use those synonymously. They are not the same thing. If you were to do surgery on a human being, and you would find a brain, but you will never find a mind, because mind does not exist in time and space. So therefore, if it doesn't exist in time and space, where does it exist? And what we've come to see is that it exists everywhere. It's like air. Air occupies everything, but we can't see it. Mind is like that. We can't see our mind. So in quantum think, you know, what we're really looking at is how do we go beyond the mind, using the limitations of the mind to actually go beyond the mind. This is one of the things of how quantum think works. But it's a matter of understanding how it all works. And Diane has done the most incredibly brilliant job in putting together her book, Do You Quantum Think? New Thinking That Will Rock Your World. It is an amazing masterpiece because she does it so clearly that anybody can get it. And we have delivered our programs, by the way, into judicially appointed schools that are housing criminals, boys, 16 to 22, some of which couldn't even spell, read, or write, never heard the word quantum. We've delivered the program to them. We did not dumb it down. We gave them the same program we would give the CEO of, you know, a Fortune 50 company. They got it. And they got it because when you actually speak something that is, shall we say, real, and I don't want to say the truth, but something that people can relate to, because it's operating on a different level. It's what the masters have spoken about since the beginning of time. Do you see what I'm saying? So there's something about it that's real. And when you speak that to somebody, it doesn't matter what their brain is saying or how much knowledge they have stored in their brain, because quantum think doesn't use the brain. it uses the mind. So it doesn't matter what school they went to, what education they had. It's got nothing to do with that. It will go in, it penetrates, it gets inside, and it moves the molecules around. And people actually get it, no matter who they are. They get it. And Diane has done such a brilliant job of putting this together so that people can get it like that. And she's done it in a very witty way. So you can actually laugh at your own absurdities as you're reading it, which is fun.
I also
and you get
tears in my eyes now. because when you give, when you were talking about how you don't dumb it down for the kids who are in all these juvenile facilities or prisons, the respect that reaches to them. You can, can just give them the book and that would just be Newtonian. You're just giving them a book. But then the energy, the respect that is coming from that energy, I think is really
That's right.
shifts.
That's right. And here I'm going to tell you a story that happened when we did this with these boys. It's an amazing story. And this rally, it does distinguish transformation as distinct from change. Exactly what I was saying earlier. The only thing we did that was different with these boys than we did that we would do with a corporate program is all of our programs are delivered by teleconference, not by video, not by Zoom, nothing like that, by teleconference. And so when we did this with the boys, because some of them couldn't read or write, we went physically to the school and we had a workbook and we coached them to write it and help them write it. And some of the boys that could read and write, help them with it. So we were able to get written down what it is they really wanted, right? There was one young boy, 16 years old. Now, how these young boys got out of the school and back into their community is that they had to pass certain grades in their education. They had to do well in math, in English, and in various different other, in their, whatever their curriculum was. They had to reach certain levels. This one 16-year-old boy was failing miserably at math. He was losing sleep over it. They had brought in some special educators to help him with the math. None of this was working. We came into the program when we went past him and we had, what do you really want? He says, I want to do well with my math. I've got to do well. I want to get high grades in my math because I want to go home. And so we did the program. Now in the program, we do never discuss what people want. It never comes up.
Okay.
That's what they're working on. We're working on Quantum Think. They're working on what they're working on, right? So we went through the program, and then on the last day of the program, we came and visited them again. We bought pizza and Coca-Cola and everything so we could celebrate and see what they had done. And so we were asking them how they did with their quantum results that they wanted. We got to this young boy, this 16-year-old, and I said to him, well, how are you doing with your math? And this is exactly what he said to us. He said, math is now a non-issue for me. That is a transformation. Change would have been, yeah, I'm better at my math. Yeah, I'm improving. I'm doing better now. I'm sleeping better even, but I'm doing better with my math. That would have been in the arena of change. The transformation was, it's a non-issue.
Wow, it's a new birth. It's like the caterpillar has become the butterfly.
Exactly. I mean, even the words that this is 16
exactly.
A non-issue. I mean, that's not language he typically would use.
No, absolutely. And it is more authentic because these are his words coming from his experience of the new form. Yes. Right? I mean, it's not something he read somewhere or an analogy he picked from somewhere. It's just coming from his own experience.
Exactly. And we never coached him on math. We weren't teaching him how to do math and what he should do with this. That never came into it. It never came into it. And that's why Quantum Think is so great, because anybody can use it for anything. In fact, Diane created this holographically. Now, you know, a hologram, you know what the hologram is, right? The nature of a hologram is that the whole picture is present in every aspect of it. So if you were able to cut the image into pieces, the holographic, image into pieces, you will see the entire image in all the pieces. That's what a hologram is. That's how it works. Now, it wouldn't be as clear. It would be more faded as you cut the pieces, becomes more faded, but still it's the whole picture. Mm. And Diane did this. So the 21 distinctions of quantum thing, every distinction has the entire system in it. Because quantum thing is a system of thinking. It's not just a bunch of ideas. It is an entire system. And you can get the whole system by one of the distinctions. Every distinction has the entire system in it. It's amazing. And that gets clearly distinguished when people are doing our programs, because when they have a quantum moment in their life, they can see all the distinctions playing out in that occurrence.
Amazing. That is amazing. I want to switch gears a little bit. And I want to ask you, one, when you were talking about your wife, and I could just feel the energy of it. So I would, can you share some glimpses of how it is working with because you're partners in everything, right? I mean, in your work, at home, in life. So how does that work? Can you give some glimpses or tips? Most people, I think in the COVID situation are like, we really need to have some space, or, right. Because you're finding that working.
Well, that's a great question. And
if I may ask that.
You're going to be quite surprised. You're going to be quite surprised in the answer. Okay. Because Diane and I, we live, just a little background here. We live on the ocean here in Miami. We live on the beach. Mm-hmm. And we have a home office. I have my office. She has her office. And we rarely see each other during the course of the day. I'm working, doing my work, and she's, because my work is mostly conversational with clients and, that kind of stuff. And she's writing and creating and doing her thing. We're both extremely competitive with each other. So we're not we're not just nicey. We're not like that. I mean, we have breakfast in the morning. I make breakfast, and we do our spiritual practice together in the morning, which we do, both of us. We read something from Siddha Yoga every morning. I'll read something from their books, which we've been doing for 30 years. We've been married 30 years, and every morning we'll read something, and maybe sometimes we'll meditate or chant or whatever we'll do. But we'll definitely do something spiritual in the morning that connects us at the energetic level, at that spiritual level, and then we go about our day. We could be arguing all day. We may even get into a fight. Okay, but Diane is able to see the whole picture, much more so than me. She sees things that nobody else sees, like that are going on global level. She can see it in the political realm. She sees it in the business realm. She sees it in the educational realm, the political realm, the finance realm. She can see it in all the realm, and she sees how all these things fit together to make the whole picture. Okay, I don't see like that. I'm much more laser-like. I'm extremely focused, and that's how I'm able to get out from people what it is they really want, because I can get in there and get that, right? So we're different. But I can be a little bit argumentative and sometimes a little bit resistant. And I get annoyed sometimes that she's able to do all that and I can't. Right? I am able to give her the material she needs for her book. That's how it works. So she sees my limitation, how we work through it together, and that shows up in her writing, in her articles. I'm giving her material. I'm feeding her the material for her wisdom. That's how we work together.
You're a really very complimentary. And
Yeah.
and I
Oh, yeah.
and I love how y'all come together througit this morning ritual. I admit I read this somewhere in the internet and I was like, do I bring this up or how do I bring it up? So I'm really
Right. I mean, it's the way things are. When we have a problem, we get over it. Do you know what I'm saying? We just get over it. We don't see eye to eye on most things, frankly. But we get over it. And, and even when we have a fight, if it's a bad one and screaming and shouting or whatever, we get over it and, we move on and we don't bring it back the next day or anything like that. We know we're different and we are complementary. We are, we're not the same in a lot of things, but we love each other, we get along with each other, and we've been able to produce some amazing, amazing material that really makes a difference in people's lives because we're real and we're human and we go through what human beings go through, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the sublime. All of it.
this is so authentic, thank you for giving us this glimpse of how it really is. It feels so genuine, so authentic. We can literally see that everything that you have been saying, literally y'all act it, y'all live it in your life together.
Yeah, we do. We live it.
You don't push it under the rug or you don't hide from it. You're just, both of you are right there.
Right there. And we'll do it in public as well. We're not fussy. If it comes out in public, it comes out. We've had some things there too. But, one of the things that one of the sort of statements of Quantum Think and one of the mantra, if you like, is that Quantum Think is about, it's not just about knowing the wisdom, it's about living the wisdom. And Quantum Think is about living the wisdom. You can know it intellectually. It's one of the things, that's the beauty of Quantum Think, is that it does move people from just merely knowing things, even if it is parts of it can be highly intellectual, very wise, and some good stuff in there. Some amazing thinking going in there. But knowing all of that is useless unless you can live it. And that's the key here. And that's what Quantum Think is all about. That's why we do our work, is because we recognize that, if we're going to have a world that works, people have to live this wisdom that so many brilliant teachers are putting out there. How can they do that? And Quantum Think really does help them live the wisdom, not just Quantum Think, but any wisdom that they're getting, because they can get it at the level of source and distinguish that they're doing it.
Beautiful. Again, I want to switch a few gears. I know Diane is one of the most, important people in her life, just like you are in her life. What are the other remarkable people that you have met or you have been inspired by in your journey?
Well, as I said, I was inspired by a 16-year-old boy who couldn't read or write English. So that inspires me tremendously. But let me see, who is it? Well, I love, Harrison. I think you know Harrison, yes, right? Because he's been Harrison is a very dear friend of ours and I'm definitely inspired by Harrison because he's somebody that he will help anybody. He'll give anybody anything. He'll introduce anybody to anything. He doesn't hold back on anything. Yeah. He's like, and I think that is a wonderful trait. A lot of people will give you a lot, but they won't give you everything. They hold back some nuggets. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Harrison does not.
The cute generosity of, like this. I think it's a really divine quality. If you can be completely generous and open, it's really a divine quality. It's hard to do it because always our patterns are making you a little more
constricted. For yourself. That's right. We want to keep something for ourselves. We don't want to give it all away because then we won't have it.
Exactly.
We forget it's a flame, right? So I admire him for that, actually. Let me see, who else? Well,
and it doesn't have to be someone you met. It could just be someone you are just inspired by through their life or books or or you have interacted with them personally. It could be anyone.
I think that where I made a transition from just being sort of attracted and wanting the physical benefits of life, like money and cars and, beautiful homes and things of that nature, which I, by the way, still want and have and enjoy. I think everybody should have, everybody should be wealthy. You know what I'm saying? I don't think there should be levels, some people should have and some people shouldn't. People should have access to whatever human beings have ever created, whatever it is. And so I'm a firm believer of that. But at one point in my life, when I was in the hairdressing world, I was sort of lived a fairly superficial life, and I would say a superficial life, and it was concerning for me, and I didn't know how to get out of it. And then one day, somebody introduced me to, at that time, something called the EST training, which was developed by a gentleman by the name of Werner Erhard. And that man was a total inspiration for me, because he put something together that enabled me, and obviously, and thousands of other people like me, that because I moved away from that. It wasn't that I gave up on that, but I had the superficial part, but I did not have the soul part, the spiritual part. I did not have the profound connectiveness to who I really was. And I didn't know where to find it. I didn't know how to get it, but I knew that I wanted it. I knew it was a missing link for me in my life. And when I did his work, I got that. And I got the relationship back with my mom and dad from it. And for that, I'm eternally grateful, because had I not got that, that would have been something that I would have taken to my grave, the not having that connection to my parents that I truly desired and wanted and knew was possible and had no idea how to get. And so he is forever in my admiration and gratefulness that I was able to complete my relationship with my mom and dad through the work he provided. So he's certainly one there. Another one that was sort of an interesting, who said something that I found kind of interesting, was Richard Gere. You know Richard Gere?
Yes, of course.
I was listening to an interview of him on the television. I can't remember who did the interview at this moment. Anyway, he was being interviewed, and the last thing that the person said to him when he interviewed him was, "How come the Dalai Lama?" Because Richard Gere was very influential in bringing the Dalai Lama to the West. And his answer was fascinating. He said, when you are in the company of somebody that is egoless, you become egoless. And that was amazing for me, because this guy had a big ego. I mean, there's no two ways about it. And he was able to get beyond it. And I could see that was his avenue, his access to getting away from his ego. Just like me with my parents, right? Same type of thing. And I really got that. And that was a very important thing for me, because when people did our work, I noticed that, and when I'm in the company of a spiritual master, I get myself. And I know that when people come and do our work, not that I'm a spiritual master, because I'm not even close, but I know that when people come to our work, they get who they are, because this work that we do is, I would say, potentially, Diane would say it, she didn't choose it, it just came through her. It was sort of channeled through her, maybe through our work with Siddha Yoga. I don't know quite how. I can't explain that one, but I know that around a master, I get who I am. I know that people who come around and who study quantum think, they get who they are. And so I see that's kind of like how things fit together. So he's one that so Richard Gere sort of put that one on me and I liked it.
I have one more question that I'm like very curious about, because, from hearing your story, so was there a particular point in that hairdressing journey where you felt I think you said that it felt a little superficial, or was that one point, or had it been building along, or what really made you want to change gears?
Well, everything is connected, right? I mean, there is no sort of, even though people think that there's one moment in time that something happens, there really isn't. There may be a moment in time when they woke up to it.
Right.
But it was certainly there all along, right? They were thinking about it at some level all the way through. And then one day, whoop, they woke up and that was it.
Right.
So I think that I didn't, when I was younger, in my younger days, in my early 20s doing hairdressing, you don't think about what you're going to be doing when you're 40 years old or when you're 50 years old. You're just playing. You're just out there. You're just going crazy, whatever, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, whatever you want to call it. You're just having a good time. But as you get a little older and you're moving along a little bit and you look back and you say, okay, well, I've been doing this for 5 years. I've been doing it for 10 years and nothing much has really changed. So if nothing much has really changed in the last 10 years, is it really going to change in the next 10 years and the 10 years after that? And then, so I started to sort of ponder those questions a little bit for myself and realized as I got a little older and I was still doing hairdressing, and I thought, this is not going the way I want it to go, because I'm no happier today than I was when I was 20 years old. I'm no more fulfilled. I'm just not feeling that, sense of purpose. I'm not, there's something missing in my essence, in my sense of self that I'm not experiencing. And as I said, I didn't know quite how to get it. And then one day, because everything is, as I say, connected, some friends of mine that were visiting from out of town were there, and they had just done the S training. And they didn't stop talking about it for 2 days. They drove me crazy with it. And I fought them every step of the way on it. I didn't want to do it. No. And then I didn't do it. And then a year later, I was cutting this lady's hair. And she said to me, I'm doing the S training this weekend. You want to do it with me? I said, yes. And that was it. And, I guess there's that saying, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear.
Absolutely.
And that's what happened.
Wow. It's synchronicity, I don't know, resonance or whatever it is. It was just like building up to that moment and boom.
That's right. Exactly. That's right. That's what we say. We say intent creates, but resonance manifests.
Intent creates.
Intent creates, but resonance manifests. So we have an intent which sets up the resonant field, the field effect, which begins to attract in everything that has the same resonant vibration to it, that vibrates energetically with your intent, because it's all energy anyways, right? So anything that is resonating with the intent comes into the field.
And it came to you in so many different ways, right? Like through your friends, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Multitudes of things can come into the field, and multitudes of things can leave the field as well. Things that are no longer there for you anymore. So it comes in. And so it comes into the field, but the more you resonate with it, the more you can actually see what's coming into the field, into the resonant field, and then you resonate with the resonant field, that aspect of it, then it starts to manifest.
Amazing.
It manifests from the resonant field because you're resonating with what you're experiencing in the field.
Wow. Wow.
That's my look. Now, is that the truth? I don't know if that's the truth, but that's what works for me. That's how I relate to it.
That's really beautiful. Mr. Allen, you have shared your wisdom and experiences and, the ways people have undergone transformation throughout this interview. My last question is are there any final words of wisdom you would like to give to our listeners? Is it something that you hold true, that you really hold true as you navigate?
Yeah, well, it goes back to conscious awareness, actually. When we look out into the world and we see what's going on in the world, I mean, it's bizarre on every level. It's bizarre in every country. That's why I think we got a glimpse of what's going on around the world more profoundly with COVID-19, because we saw every country get hit with it. Pretty much every country, at least, got hit with it. And we saw how things were going on in those countries. And we see how human beings treat each other, so poorly, so inhumanely. That I think, and no matter what laws, what legislation is being written, no matter how many police they send out onto the streets, armed guards they send out onto the streets, no matter what they do to try to put things under control, bigger rockets, more bombs, more this, more that, no matter what it does, nothing is helping. It's getting worse, actually. It's not improving. And so what is it that we must do as human beings? And I think that the thing to do is that we have to explore what it means to live a conscious life. And each individual will have a different journey to that end. There are, as I said before, there are some amazing teachers out there that are teaching some beautiful things, on many levels, on the spiritual level, on the esoteric level, on the business level, in the emotional level. There's so many levels and different ways that people are actually getting at this. But I think that is the key thing, that if each one of us can take a conscious journey and consciously take the conscious journey, I think we can have a world that really does work for everybody, and humans will start relating to each other as about the divine beings that we are, and and the kinds of, and then we could all live a magnificent life. And that's that's my message.
Wow, thank you so much, Mr. Allen. We look forward to your speech at the World Parliament of Spirituality. Thank you so much. It's really
my pleasure. Thank you, Nancy, and thank you. You asked fabulous questions. I loved your questions, and you were with me all the way. You didn't, you weren't coming at this conceptually. So I appreciate your connection to, an interest in what in getting something out of me, and you poured it out of me. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Allen.